In the 1st century AD, during the Roman rule over Judea and Galilee, many villages lived between hope and uncertainty. Roman soldiers patrolled the dusty roads, tax collectors worked for the empire, and religious leaders guided the spiritual life of the people. It was a world filled with tension, faith, and expectation. Amid this complex reality, the voice of a traveling teacher from Galilee began to spread from village to village. His name was Jesus of Nazareth, and many said that his words carried a wisdom that reached deeper than ordinary teaching. One warm afternoon, in a small village near the Sea of Galilee, the dry earth of the road lifted in gentle clouds of dust as travelers passed. The houses of the village were built from rough limestone blocks, with flat roofs made of wooden beams, clay, and bundles of dried reeds. Inside the small courtyards, the sounds of daily life echoed softly. Women ground grain with large stone mills, clay ovens glowed with fire as bread baked slowly, and distant birds circled above groves of olive trees. The air smelled of warm soil and fresh bread. In one of these courtyards, a group of villagers had gathered to listen to Jesus. Some were fishermen from the nearby lake. Others were farmers who worked small fields of barley and wheat surrounding the village. Elderly men leaned on wooden walking staffs, while mothers held their children close as they listened. Jesus sat on a smooth stone beneath the shade of a fig tree. His clothing was simple, a long linen tunic in natural earth tones, a light wool cloak resting on his shoulders, and worn leather sandals covered with the dust of many roads. His face showed the calm of someone accustomed to long journeys between towns. His eyes moved quietly across the crowd, observing each person with patient attention. Among the people stood a man whose expression revealed deep worry. His hands trembled slightly as he held the edge of his tunic. He had traveled from another village after hearing that Jesus spoke about trusting God and the power of faith. His family had been facing difficult days. The harvest that year had been poor, and the weight of debts had begun to grow heavier with every passing week. After a moment of hesitation, the man stepped forward. "Teacher," he said quietly, "many people say that God cares for us. But sometimes fear is stronger than hope. How can we trust when we do not know what tomorrow will bring?" The courtyard became silent. A light wind moved gently through the leaves of the nearby olive tree. In the distance, a donkey brayed. Somewhere behind the houses, a clay jar was placed onto a wooden table with a soft echo. Jesus looked at the man calmly. Then he pointed toward the open fields stretching beyond the edge of the village. "Look at the fields," he said. Every farmer in the courtyard followed his gesture. "Each year, after the harvest, the land appears empty," Jesus continued. "The soil becomes dry. The plants disappear. It seems as if life has ended. But when the rain returns, life rises again from the earth." Several farmers slowly nodded. They knew that cycle well. Jesus continued speaking. "In the same way, trust in God is like a seed placed beneath the soil. At first it cannot be seen. The earth covers it. Days pass, and nothing appears to change. But deep beneath the surface, something is growing." The worried man listened closely. Jesus reached toward a small wooden table where someone had left a few grains from the day's work. He picked up a tiny seed and held it between his fingers. "Even the smallest seed," he said, lifting it so the crowd could see, "contains a power that cannot be seen. When it finds good soil, it grows into something far greater than anyone expects." The people exchanged thoughtful glances. The lesson was simple, yet powerful. An elderly woman spoke softly from the edge of the gathering. "Does faith change what happens to us?" Jesus gently shook his head. "Faith changes the heart," he answered. "And when the heart changes, the way we see the world changes as well." The man who had spoken earlier took a slow breath. The heavy burden inside his chest seemed to loosen. Jesus looked once more at the people gathered in the courtyard. "Trust in God," he said quietly, "even when the path ahead is unclear. Because the power of God often begins its work in silence, like a seed growing beneath the soil. The sun slowly lowered toward the hills beyond the lake. Golden light covered the stone walls of the village and the distant fields. One by one, the people began to stand. Some spoke quietly with one another about what they had heard. Others walked away in silence, reflecting on the words. The man who had asked the question remained for a moment longer, looking toward the open fields. Not all of his problems had disappeared, but something inside him had changed. He had discovered that trusting God did not mean understanding everything. It meant walking forward with faith, even when the future was still hidden. And often, in that quiet act of trust, the true power of God begins to reveal itself.
This grain I hold is small, but in sharing, it multiplies. So it is with wisdom.